Odo arrests Vedic Solus for fundraising on the promenade without a license, and Captain Sisko is awarded the Christopher Pike Medal of Valor, and Ducat needs some Visine to get that darn red out of his eyes. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Seventh Rule with Cirroc Lofton.
Hello, hello.
My name is Ryan T. Husk. Today we're doing a review of Deep Space Nine, Season 6, Episode 26, Tears of the Prophets, written by Ira Steven Behr and Hans Beimler, directed by Alan Craker. June 17th, 1998. Where were you? It is a Nog episode. Melissa Longo and Mochi the Cat are joining us today.
Eldor Joy! Joy, everyone.
Yes.
Hey, Cirroc.
Yes.
Eldor Joy to you, too.
Eldor Joy.
Man, that was a mouthful. I almost said Medal of Honor, but then I had to say Medal of Valor, which
I wrote that down because I actually originally wrote it Medal of Honor, and you corrected that for me. It is Medal of Valor.
Yeah. It doesn't quite roll off the tongue as easily, but today I decided to wear red to match Ducat's eyes.
Nice.
He needs that Visine. Anyway.
Yeah.
Oh,
how far wraith of you?
That counts as a NAM though, right?
For who?
Christopher Pike.
Yes, I think it does. Very nice. I just glossed right over that.
Wow.
Excellent
She
work.
is on fire today.
Yeah, she is on fire like Jadzia Dax.
Too soon.
Today we want to give
for that. I just finished.
Today we want to give a very special thanks to our friend Thorsten Reichelt. I believe he's out in Germany, so let's see if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Thorsten Reichelt. Or Reichelt. I don't know. But thanks very much, Thorsten. This is a great episode for you to choose. Let's have some fun and talk about it. Cirroc, were you destroyed at the end there?
Yeah, a little bit. I wasn't expecting it. And it's funny because I was not expecting it, even though I know that Terry wasn't with us in the 7th season. I just didn't, for some reason, I wasn't even thinking about like her last episode, and this was her last episode, and kind of sad, especially when they set it up with the whole baby talk and all of that, planning of family stuff. That made it even more emotional for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I found myself thinking, what was it like for the people that watched it the day it premiered on June 17th, 1998? Were they like, no, she's not dead. She can't be dead. They did a psych out. They did a fake out to us a couple months ago where she almost died. We thought they're probably like, no. But then they're like, when are they going to tell us? Just kidding. They go through the whole thing. Yeah. Ducat kind of apologizes. She's in sick bay. There's all, and they're just like waiting, and it never comes. And then there's the scene with Captain Sisko saying his goodbye to her. I can only imagine that the viewers were in shock.
Well, I think I remember thinking, well, it is the season finale, so maybe they're gonna do some magic.
Yeah.
Star Trek magic to bring her back for the next season, but it didn't happen, unfortunately.
Yeah, it was sad. Like I said, the thing was that she had just gotten, with Worf and kind of building her life together and starting her whole journey as a couple, planning on having a baby, which they actually talked about an issue that I was concerned about a few reviews ago, which is, could the Dax
exactly
and Worf have a kid? And they actually addressed that issue with Bashir saying, it's going to be difficult, and there's, it's not going to be that easy, essentially. That there would be some kind of intervention scientifically or medically for them to be able to accomplish that. So that's at least what I thought the innuendo was.
Mm-hmm.
But it didn't seem out of the realm of possibility for them, right? And they never really talk about adoption that much, but that could have also probably been an option for them if they weren't able to have a child. They may have adopted a child or
they
something.
Could adopt Jake. A little late, but whatever.
Right. Hey, I'm down. A little too late though, you know. But yeah, so there was this whole idea of them building this future together and building a family, which I thought added to the sensation of the loss. It was like, oh man, here they are planning this thing out. You know, everything's going along smoothly. She doesn't go on the Defiant, right?
Yeah.
So you're thinking, oh, she's safe. She's, you know,
right.
So you're thinking that the people on the Defiant are the ones that are actually at risk, are the Klingons and the Romulans, the people who are about to go to the front line. So you think whoever's staying back is pretty much safe. And so watching that kind of unfold, they really set me up, and I was sad to see her kind of go out like that, especially because it wasn't necessarily in an act of heroism.
Totally.
Right.
It wasn't like some big sacrifice in
right.
She didn't do it like Shax did on Lower Decks at the end of season 1, going out in a blaze of glory. She was just praying, happy, grateful, everything's cool, and then Dukat comes. Well, in
it
fairness,
was a true murder.
Well, in Ducat's mind, he did an act of heroism, though. So you kind of got the heroism there.
No.
I mean, no. If it was like something where she kind of had to lock herself in an airlock or something and save the station because, the only way is somebody had to go to the warp core and expose himself and everybody else would live if she died or something to that measure, it kind of would have been easier for me to swallow, probably even sadder for me, but easier for me to swallow a little bit. It was kind of hard that it was just Dukat popping up on her while she's praying. She had never gone. I don't remember her going to the Bjorn Temple in the past. This was like the first time, right?
Well, yeah, because she had hope. And that's why it is so sad, because she's so full of hope for this possible baby between the person she loves and herself to pop up, to be possibly successful. There's a chance. And then she's going to thank them, because you thank everyone who possibly, whether it's true or not, has a hand in that miracle coming up. So she goes to thank the prophets and
I wonder if there's enough room in Trills that are conjoined and have a symbiont in there plus a baby. Like, are they? It kind of looks like yin yang in their belly. There's like two things, but
like, does the symbiont protrude where the belly button? What for humans are the belly button supposed to go?
But Cirroc, when you were saying, how her death was kind of meaningless, it did remind me, no spoilers, but there is a character in season 1 of Next Generation that dies in a similar fashion, just kind of like this person dies. And it was kind of a shock because it was a series regular. And it wasn't even like a heroic death. It was just a bad guy going zap kind of thing. And later on, that character does kind of come back and say, I just know that I died a meaningless death or something like that. Or maybe it was Guinan that says that. But anyway, great episode. We don't want to talk about that, but that one was even worse than this one. At least this one had Dax died to like a main villain. At least it would have been even worse if it was just like a one-off character that shows up and zaps her.
Right.
But still, it adds strength to the Dukat storyline of him getting to an even higher level of villainy. But yeah, it would have been great if she like fought him and stopped him from killing Bajorans that were also there praying. And so she sacrificed herself to save those people. Something like that would have been great. You know, we would have loved to see that.
Yeah, but I also think that it shows, you know, these things happen all the time. People come and take other people's lives for their own gain, and you're surprised by it. And what can you do in that surprise? You don't know what's around the corner, and obviously Jadzia didn't. And unfortunately, that's true to life.
Cirroc, when she first got zapped, did you think that she was going to die, or were you like, nah, she'll say?
Not really, because I think we just saw the Pa Wraith episode like a couple episodes back with me and Kira, and we had that whole battle, that blue and red battle. Yeah, and I think some other people were shot with that energy beam in that episode that ended up living. I don't think everybody who got hit with that projected.
I think Sisko got hit, didn't he?
He got hit, but I don't think he got held in the full blast of the Pa Wraith. But you know, he got thrown down the hall with it. But he didn't get. He didn't get suspended in a beam of that.
In a concentrated beam, right?
Right.
But what I'm just saying that to say that there are levels by which you can be hit with that beam. Yeah. Some of which could just incapacitate you. So, for example, if Dukat only hit her with a concentrated blast like it was in the episode we saw, she would have been thrown back into the wall and knocked unconscious and still been alive. Obviously, they were looking for a way to kill her. And like I said, it just was sad for me that she went out like that. Obviously, you know, the way you feel about Dukat already, he's the perfect guy to do it because you already hate him. So it's, you know, doesn't make you hate him anymore. But I also feel that the prophets were so encoded in the messaging that they had in the vision with Sisko, you couldn't really foresee or extrapolate that would be the outcome based upon the vision that they gave him. Yeah. Right. They gave him a very cryptid, like he is a Bajor. It was cryptid. It was cryptic. I mean, it wasn't easy to understand that this would be the consequence for your actions, right?
Right. Well, it seems like they were protecting themselves because they know that all the orbs have now been destroyed or whatever that was. And they're like, you got to stay there and protect those orbs. So it seems like they're very, I don't want to say egocentric, but they're focused on themselves and on Bajor. And they're not necessarily looking at what's best for the Alpha Quadrant or what's going to be a victory or a loss. They're just saying, hey, if you leave, then, you know, Bajor is going to suffer for it. And didn't they give him that vision a couple seasons ago where they're like, Bajor cannot enter the Federation, remember? Because they were protected and they were right there, you know, so they're always focused on what's best for Bajor. And Sisko is always torn between, am I the emissary or am I a Federation captain? And today, Admiral Ross called him out on that and said, you got to pick one. And as usual, not always, but more often than not, Sisko chose his allegiance to the Federation.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's where he swore an oath to,
That's true, yeah.
It's not, the emissary position was thrust upon him. He didn't ask for it, but he did ask to be part of the Federation. He swore an oath to that.
That's true.
I feel like his allegiance has always been to the Federation, even when he sided on the side of the prophets and had his visions and his experience with them. When he comes out of it, he's basically telling everybody, trust me, I'm going this way, but he's only working in the best interest of the Federation. He's like, this is what's going to be best for the Federation or Bajor, and us going forward. So part of me thinks his allegiance is always to the Federation. Even when he's in that state of vision, he's trying to ask questions that would help him, solve problems as a captain.
Mm-hmm.
So all of it is kind of motivated and centrally about him in this, in what we would deem as reality, right? He spends 99.9% of his time as a captain in this kind of reality, and like that 1.1% is in this vision state where he's able to communicate with the gods and whatnot. So I would say all of his motivation is to benefit Starfleet, benefit the Federation, make the best moves for for peace and prosperity within Bajor and the whole quadrant.
Which makes sense because it's easier to trust the thing that you've known and been invested in your entire life than it is to trust something that is completely alien, and that level of trust in the prophets has to be earned and developed and grow, and I think it has to a point, but there's, you still fall back on the same old, even if that same old isn't the best option for you.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm thinking about like the position that he's put in, that he's constantly forced to choose between the two. And just imagine where you're like, you have to choose between this duty and the thing that you didn't choose, the emissary, right? Mm-hmm. But you have millions or billions of people counting on you, these lives, even if you never chose for them to count on you, they are. And so he's constantly needing to figure out how to juggle his responsibilities that he chose with the responsibilities he didn't choose. And, that's why he's like, well, let's see, if I can save 1 million lives on one hand and I just get a reprimand on the other hand, maybe I'll do it this time. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
he constantly has to, take the lesser of two evils. And it's just such a difficult position to be in. And, even though he never chose to be the emissary, it's still this enormous responsibility to where like he cares about they're still living beings, and he's constantly being forced to make these tough decisions. Which
shows what an amazing character, what amazing standards Sisko has, because he is always grappling what is better for the many, what is going to hurt fewer people, and he's open to receiving the messages from the prophets, which not everyone would be, which may be why he was chosen to be the emissary, because his mind is open to other sentient beings, even though those don't come in solid form. I don't know.
I think about the gospel and like religion in general, and when you have people that are leaders in religious sectors, they could say anything. And what I mean by that is it's not just about the words that you say, it's about the actions that you take and who you really are as a person. So if you are really a person that doesn't take advantage of people or helps people and that's kind, that will reflect in your actions, regardless of what your words are. Your words, I'm the greatest of all time, I never sin, I'm the greatest, I do all this for the homeless and charity, but if your words, if your actions speak like that, and we can see you in moments when you think nobody's looking and you're, buying coffee for a homeless guy or doing this and doing that, when you think nobody's looking, then that shows a different kind of action. And to me, that's the reason why they chose Sisko, not because of his words and his diplomacy, but because of they have faith in him taking the right actions when the moment counts.
Mm-hmm.
Flying into the wormhole and facing all those Dominion ships And really, it's just basically telling them to, lock your weapons and fire on 1,000 ships.
Yeah.
It's like, it's a suicide run, but
yeah.
He's rolling the dice based on whatever instinct that he has as a human being, whatever that gut feeling that he has, and he rides it. He rolls the dice on that gut feeling. Even in this case, his gut feeling was, this is not a good idea for me to leave, but he still rolled the dice and said, all right, well, I'm going to leave.
Right.
And he'll take that chance. You never know which way it'll go, but he'll take a chance either way. And he has a gut kind of instinct, even to leave at the end of this episode where he's like, all right, I'm leaving. That was another gut moment feeling for him, right?
Yeah. It's interesting because he doesn't lead with the notion, it's you don't see it on him immediately that he's kind of a man that follows faith, that follows gut, that follows instinct. He seems like somebody that's kind of tough and calculated and all that. But the more you get to know him, the more you realize like he definitely has to, because he's torn in so many ways that when there's no right answer, you kind of have to just say, okay, well, what's my conscience telling me? What's, where am I getting pulled? Because he never has any right answers a lot of times, and he has to just kind of go with his gut like that. And I like that he ended up leaving at the end. I would have liked to see Worf also leaving. Like, I would have liked to see just one scene where he just kind of grabs a bag and just goes off somewhere to find himself or to go be with the Klingons or something, because then that would have just really set Deep Space Nine into turmoil where one person dies, two others leave, Sisko and Jake. Worf goes off in this direction. And it's just kind of like it would have left everybody at the end of season 6 on the original viewing thinking like, whoa.
I was thinking
happened?
Something similar to that when I was watching it last night. And I was like, wow, I'm surprised Worf didn't leave too.
Mm-hmm.
You would think that he might, just because, I don't know, that, he would be in the same position as Sisko was in the beginning of Deep Space Nine in the very first episode.
That's right. Maybe he's going to finally join the Nyberide Alliance, which he mentioned at the beginning of season 4 when he's like, Chief, I'm going to join the Nyberide Alliance. And he's like, that's a long way away, Worf, or whatever the heck he says.
I was waiting to see more reaction from Worf. I wasn't really satisfied with his goodbye scene with Dax. It didn't give me enough based on how much I felt. Yeah.
A yell.
Yeah.
Hey, we've got
it wasn't enough for me. I wanted more. I felt like I'd be sobbing or something. I felt like there'd be more to it.
Maybe what we didn't see was that he went into the holo suite and just started attacking himself with a Klingon pain stick. He's just like jabbing himself. I need to feel more physical pain to match my emotional pain or whatever. But we got to hit a quick break, a very quick break, and then we'll be right back, everybody, on the 7th rule.
Yeah, punch me, Captain.
Hey, everybody, welcome back to the 7th rule with Cirroc Lofton.
Hello, hello.
And Malissa Longo.
Hello, hello, hello.
Hey, everybody. By the way, we forgot to tell you that it is fun time. It's the time of the week where you can just enjoy the time for yourself. You can hang out. You can relax. You've worked hard. You've stressed. There are people yelling at each other on Twitter. There's somebody yelling at, 2 doors down. You don't know what's going on, but you don't want to butt in. But right now you can just relax and have happy time. So let's jump into it. Here are the trivioids of the week. And you're like, but I thought you said it was going to be happy time. It will be in just 30 seconds. Captain Sisko insists that the festival take place despite the fact that the Federation is in the middle of a war. Odo arrests Vedic Solis for fundraising on the promenade without a license. Captain Sisko is awarded the Christopher Pike Medal of Valor. Jackson Worf were talking in the holo suite for an hour and 45 minutes. Quark is worried the kid will end up looking like his father. That's funny. Vic Fontaine compares Dax, Quark, and Bashir to horses. Dukat lights a candle with a funny lighter. Dukat wants to fight the Bajoran gods, and Dukat needs to get himself some damn Visine.
Dukat needs some anger management.
You sound like you do.
Really?
What are you saying, Cirroc?
No, I was going to say Vedic soulless. They couldn't come up with a better name. That he's soulless. It's not exactly. I wouldn't exactly be going to pray to the soulless guy. I thought that was hilarious.
Soulless. I get it. That's so funny.
Yes.
He's soulless. AKA the soulless Vedic. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or it could be soul as in son.
Mm-hmm. That's how it was spelled.
Yeah, it could be. But then, so soulless was soliciting.
Wow, very good.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, not the best name for him. The jokes write themselves there, apparently.
they just keep going.
Yeah.
I want to say though, I thought that DeMar is so fantastic. Like the more he just good. His ambition, his comebacks, he's so arrogant. He's so his comebacks for Wei-Yun were fantastic. When he says to him, I'm gonna remind you said that.
Yes.
Right? The way he said that.
But he also does a great job of staying within the hierarchy. You notice how Dukat was always he would stay within the hierarchy, but he would kind of challenge a little bit here and there. Whereas DeMar is just kind of like, I'm going to be your prize pupil. And one day I'm going to take over. Like,
but yeah. And then his reaction when Dukat starts talking about the pirates and his disappointment. There's so much disappointment on his face when he realizes his hero and his mentor is a nut job. He's like, this is not the guy that I knew and fell and pledged my life to. I don't know who this guy is.
Listen to some of the really good dialogue that DeMar and Wei-Yun had. So when first DeMar is telling Wei-Yun that the weapons are going to be ready, and Wei-Yun says, that's a very comforting thought, if it's accurate. And DeMar says, I'll be sure that it is. Just little things right there. Like he's confident, but he's doing it within the hierarchy of just watch this. We have nothing to worry about. I got this handled. Or when DeMar says, I believe you owe me an apology to Wei-Yun, and Wei-Yun says, I believe you are right. I mean, they work together so well in a slightly different way than Dukat and Wei-Yun did. Because if you'll recall, DeMar hated Wei-Yun and always wanted Dukat to turn on him. And Dukat was the one holding him down, saying that, patience. But now DeMar's finding out that when he's up there, he's kind of like, well, maybe I shouldn't be so hasty, because he likes it in that top seat of the Cardassians. So he also, plays ball with Wei-Yun, but
waiting for that moment.
Yeah, he does it in a way that's very like, he's almost enjoying the partnership, it seems.
Yeah, but I do see his loyalty to Cardassia, and I think that is more of his motivation than anything else, because he loves Cardassia, he loves his home world, he loves his people, and he'll do anything, even partner up with this sleazeball Wei-Yun to make sure that continues.
Or what about when Wei-Yun says, the more I see these Bajorans, the more I think these gods are superstitious nonsense. And DeMar says, you believe the founders are gods, don't you? And Wei-Yun says, well, that's different. DeMar says, how is that? Wei-Yun, of course, says, well, the founders are gods, which is just what, not only is it funny and, and cute, and we get a good chuckle out of it, but isn't that what every religion thinks? Yes. They're all like, all those other religions are so silly. Well, what about yours? Oh, well, that's different. My religion's the real one. All those other guys, they're
Right.
ridiculous. What are they thinking? Mine's the correct one.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that dialogue. It's so smart. It's clever.
And like you said, DeMar holds back in certain moments where he's just about to pounce on Wei Yu, and he questions him just subtly, but he's always in it, like in a, chain of command type of respect. But I thought Ducat was great because as soon as he comes on the scene, they're like, "What the hell are you doing here?" And he's like, "You remember me, DeMar, your mentor." He basically sunned him right then and there when he called him. He's like, "You remember, I'm your mentor. I'm the guy you look up to, right?" And then there was another moment where Wei Yun really cuts into Ducat, and he says to him, "You went from self-important egotist to self-deluded madman."
Yes.
I hardly call that an improvement.
More like a lateral movement.
Yeah. It was fantastic. I thought the dialogue in this was excellent. Shout out to Ira Bear and Hans Beimler for writing this one.
Totally.
Another great contrast between characters that I thought was well written was between the Klingons and the Romulans.
Oh my gosh. Yes, I have this in my notes. And that whole scene, I was like, all of these characters are strutting their stuff, trying to exert their dominance, but in their own species way.
Yes.
Like you could define the Romulans.
Everybody on their side would be like, "Oh, you totally owned it." Like the Romulans are like,
Like,
"Oh, good job, you got him," and then the Klingons are like, "No way, you got him." Oh man, right?
It was
Every species has their own characteristics, and it came across beautifully. I love that scene. I was like, "Oh my gosh, it's so good."
Yes, the bags on when they were joking on each other.
Yes,
I think the Romulan senator, he said, "Look at the primitive rage in his eye, the uncontrolled brutality.
Yeah,
every Romulan zoo should have a pair." I was like, that is a dig. Wow.
Oh, beautiful writing. Yes.
I was thinking, what do they call that in Klingon? Like we say a dig or clowning on them or dogging them or whatever. Back in the day, they say capping on. Like, what do the Klingons say? Are they like, "Oh, you really patocked him," or
you're patocking him?
Yeah.
What are you patocking about?
I know. Another moment the Romulan senator got him is when he looked over him and he was like, "We'll need a lot of luck." And then he looked and said, "Romulans don't believe in luck." We don't do that whole little. We know we're confident we're going to win this game.
That's cute.
We don't have silly superstitions like that. Like you meathead Klingons.
We'll definitely have to ask that in the free for all. We'll say, who won that not so rap battle between the Klingons and and the Romulans? Who won that?
And Admiral Ross was just like, "Okay, everyone, can't we all just get along?" We tried to.
Yeah. Let's fight. Let's use this energy over there.
Yes.
And then both the Romulans and Klingons are thinking, typical Federation, of course. "Oh, let's just get along and talk about it, everybody. Look, we can all figure it out and drink root beer."
All right, humans.
I thought Jake really showed a lot of maturity too by really wanting to be on the front line and really wanting to be in the middle of this war. And I thought it was clever how he was able to essentially give his dad a lose-lose scenario.
Force his way in, basically,
the lesser of two evils. He's like, "All right, well, I'll just talk to the Klingons, and they'll let me in on one of theirs. I'll get the Klingon story."
From the Klingon perspective. And Dad's like, "You don't you dare, man. All right, you come with me. Don't touch anything." I was actually very happy with how they incorporated Jake into the story, not just in that way, but also at the end when he left with Captain Sisko, but I think it's great because sometimes they have to be creative in order to incorporate Jake. Like Nog, we know where he fits. When they go off on the Defiant, he's going to be there. That's kind of his home right now in the storylines.
Yeah.
Jake is kind of a wild card in that they can kind of fit him into any storyline because he's not necessarily beholden to Starfleet or being on a ship or being in ops or he can kind of be added in almost anywhere they want him. And I thought that was a really good way for him to be a master of his own destiny. Nobody really wants a character that the story they're added into the story or the story happens to them. He's kind of a master of his own destiny thing where he says, I want to be a part of this. I want to do that. And that's what makes a really interesting character, I think.
And it's kind of neat to see how parent and child negotiate at different stages of their life. Because obviously Jake is an adult now, and how he and Sisko interact with each other has changed from the first episode, and how they make decisions. Sisko can't make decisions for Jake anymore because he's an adult, but he also still has that wanting to protect him and make sure that he's safe from all the dangers. But it's fun to see Sisko grapple with that as well, letting go but not letting go. And
yes, one of my favorite moments was when Jake's on the bridge. He's sitting behind his dad and he gets up, and Sisko's like, sit down. He's like, all right. He's like, sit down. Like, just say this is not the time right now. I know what you're trying to do. And I love that moment because it was like, all right, I guess let me just shut up and pretend like I'm doing something on my pad. I definitely like that. You know what I did think was a little bit odd though, and just bear with me for this. The Bajoran relics that I've seen, the orbs are very intricate design boxes with this glowing kind of matter inside of it. I don't know what it is, but right. And these very decorative jewelry boxes that would kind of make you think of ancient Egypt or something like that, right? So really good craftsmanship. And then Ducat pulls out this wooden carved statue that looks like a 5-year-old made it. I'm like, so who made this thing? Like, you guys, the Bajorans have this ancient, they have had all of these great artifacts that we've seen, all of this, high technology. Even when they went to the excavating the site, that thing that was on the wall was intricate and Sisko was trying to decipher it. And I'm thinking the same guys made this little wooden, like you get in Tijuana when you cross the border. Like, sir, you want to
for $4.50?
Or maybe it wasn't. Maybe it's older than all of those things. And when they trapped the Parways in there, they put it in the least aesthetically pleasing package, so nobody would want to open it.
Right, yeah. I would definitely stay away from that toy, that little video dog toy. The paw wraiths in it. And it seems like everybody knows that you got to break the thing open to get the paw wraith out. I'm like, I would have never figured that out.
No, look for a button, soak it in water. Maybe you just need to tap on it a few times.
It would take me a long time to figure out that maybe I should just throw it on the floor and break it.
Yeah, well, it's so ugly. I just need to throw it on the floor and stomp on it.
Melissa, right? That is the Bajoran's heritage you are making fun of.
Oh no!
And I have another little nitpick too, just for the record. It's a general nitpick. It's not specific to this episode. It's more of an overall thing.
Isn't that your title? General nitpick.
Yeah. But the thing that I was like, wait a minute. So this episode ends and Jake and his dad go back to Earth. And it basically ends that he's, you see Sisko in the back peeling these potatoes, right? And I'm thinking, so Picard comes from this French winery, this chateau, this beautiful, wealthy, opulent background. And Sisko comes from the potato peeling alley generation. I'm like, what kind of like, that's like a historical kind of trope on Black people and what they've come from and the kind of wealth that they've come from. And it just, it's something that caught my eye. I know it's not something that everybody thinks about, but I thought about it. I was like, well, Picard clearly comes from generational wealth and this opulent background, you know, and Sisko coming from a more moderate kind of middle class means. And it just showed a stark contrast and what Sisko had to kind of come from in order to become who he was.
Totally.
You know, it's a small thing to look at, but it means he overcame a lot in a very small.
You know what's interesting about that though, is that when I saw that one, and it's a super short scene, but I had something hit me when I saw that scene, and because I'd forgotten it was there. And then when it opens up, you know, and Sisko's peeling potatoes, I had this overwhelming sense of like comfort and familiarity and happiness that he was there. And I don't get that feeling when, you know, I'm watching Star Trek Picard and I see Picard visiting the chateau, or when in Brothers, Next Generation episode, is it called Brothers? It's something like the fifth season or something. He goes back and I didn't really get that feeling then. And then same thing in All Good Things, the final episode of Next Generation, he goes there again. I never really got that feeling. I'm like, oh, that's cool. I love France and I love the vineyards and all that. But when I see Sisko back home with his dad in that restaurant, it's a much different feeling. Like for me, I get like this happiness and this home feeling. Like I feel like I'm back home. And I don't know, for me, I just like it. It just hits in a different way. And it's much more charming and much more familial to me.
Yeah, it feels more comfortable. Like he has a sense of safety and calm in that place. And I think he was washing rocks, not peeling potatoes. But
I hope he wasn't washing rocks. Poor guy's like, when you're done kicking rocks, go ahead and wash them up.
Because of the way they made the sound when he plunked the other one in the water, I think he was not peeling potatoes. But
no, it might have been scrubbing clams or
that
something
could have
like
been
that.
it. That could have been it. Yeah.
Good point. It's probably that. Yeah.
But it does feel like he was coming to a home, a place where he had invested so much of himself and his life, and a place that shaped him, you know. But this time in the Federation, there is no wealth, so I don't get, because there's no money, right?
Yeah, but that's kind of one of the many, you know, sci-fi things where you're like, that's never going to work out perfectly, because they're always talking about how there's no money, but then anytime they need money, they have it. Right. Whenever they need to buy something off Quark, or whenever they go to a different planet and need to buy stuff. So they have money, but they don't ever
in the universe, not on Earth.
Right. But then, you know, and this is a whole different topic, but if you think about it, okay, let's say that the Federation does not use money amongst themselves. Like when, you know, some guy at the restaurant is not paying for this or that. Okay, what about countries? Okay, are countries paying? Theoretically, no. What about different planets within the Federation? Theoretically, no. Okay. But then when they go to a different planet outside of the Federation and they need to deal with money, of course, they have the money and they do whatever, right? But then where did they get the money? Okay, well, they can't replicate the money, because then that just completely diminishes and destroys the value of all money, because then you could just replicate as much money as you could ever want or need. And that's just an impossibility. It would be illegal. But then how did they make that money if they don't believe in dealing with money? They wouldn't charge anyway. So the whole thing is very confusing and almost impossible to figure out.
do it in a barter system, like they would do, like
well, that's what money is.
Money
is a barter system.
But that's what the Federation could do with the outside Federation planets, is barter, or exchange whatever
Goods.
for dilithium or whatever for money that they need.
Right. Technology.
Yeah.
But then that's exactly what money in the exchange of goods is.
I think that they've been able to find ways to enrich soil and production of food growth and all of these things, where they can go to other planets and actually increase their output and make them live in abundance, so that they never really have to have the same kind of deficits that they would normally live under, right? By having technology, by saying, hey, we can do this technological advancement, we can do this to the soil, build this kind of thing, or whatever it is. So that innovation itself would be valuable to other planets in general.
Totally. Yeah, I mean, the theory is that they've been able to do away with money by doing away with the need for money. They have replicators, so nobody needs to buy food. They have it forever. You don't need, they've done away with poverty and need and want and hunger and all those things. So then what do you need money for? You kind of don't.
Yeah, you don't. At least not on Earth.
But back to the point that I was making about Sisko at the end, and I do understand what you're saying about the familiarity of it, and it did feel like a warm place for him to go, like it was a place where he was welcome. And it is also the more common experience. So there are more people on this planet that can relate to a middle-class lifestyle, than there are that can relate to living in
coming back to my castle.
I'm just gonna welcome to my chateau.
I'm gonna go back up to Fresno to my castle real quick for the weekend, guys. Don't wait up.
Exactly. So there's more people that can relate to that, and it's a more personable lifestyle. When you have maids and rooms that you don't even know what's going on in, then it's a different lifestyle. It's not personable. It's not tight knit. It doesn't have that same familial kind of feeling to it, where people are going through the same struggles together in a enclosed space. That's one of the things that bonds us, is being close together in space. And also, having that familial bond with each other. That's why a lot of kids grew up, two kids in a bedroom, or, sharing a room with your sibling, or things like that. That's a common thing.
Yeah.
And that kind of closeness makes you feel tighter, because you guys are, there's nowhere to go. You guys know everything about each other.
Yeah. Well, and I love that they've shown that Joseph Sisko has created this kind of atmosphere with his love of food and love of feeding people and sharing that community and that bond and connection with others through their bellies, which is a great way to go.
But yeah, I mean, look no further than Joseph Sisko for the reason that we all feel that feeling when they're back at that restaurant. Not only that, he started the restaurant, but also he embodies that kind of feeling. Like, you're not just going home to a building, you're going home to Joseph Sisko, which is just like one of the most underrated characters in the history of Star Trek, I think. He was only in a few episodes, but there's just this feeling that you get from Brock Peters, the way he acts it, the energy that he has, the history he has as a person and actor even before Star Trek, and the way the writers write him, and I think at least half of the reason we feel that way when we see him back there is because we're like, oh, we're back with Grandpa. You know what I mean?
Yes, yes. I want him to be my grandpa, and I want to go to Sisko's. Keep me in whenever.
And you can see, and Sisko is actually meditating when he's doing that labor in the alley there. That's a form of meditation for him, whatever that is. He must have been doing that for years. He remembers that as a kid, maybe. But it's just like, it's something that gets him in a space where he can kind of be free to think and clear his head. That's why Jake's like, hey, Grandpa wants to know when you're coming in. He's like, I'll be in a minute. I like being out here, just kind of thinking about my life and about the friendship I had with Dax, about this Dominion War. What do I have to lose? What do I have to gain? And are they going to bring us back for season 7? So he was thinking about those things.
You know, what's funny is that you said Grandpa wants you back in, and I just heard Grandpa won when you said that. And the timing couldn't be more perfect, because we are going to go to our free-for-all in just a minute. But before we do, we want to give a very special thanks to Grandpa One, a.k.a. Tim Baum, Homer Frizzell in Walter Koenig's former apartment building up in New York, Dr. Marie Segal, Steve England out in Wales, Yvette Blackmon-Tom, Carmen, a.k.a. Skillet, TJ Jackson-Bey out in Missouri, Bill Victor
Arucan,
Darlena Marie, Titus Mohler, John Mann, Dr. Mohamed Noor, Tierney C. Dieckmann, Rex A. Wood, Anil O. Palat, Anna Post, Dr. Frank Sobozhensky, Patrick David Lindsley, Joe Balsarati, and of course, everybody knows her and loves her, the bug lady, the insect champion of the world, Dr. Susan B. Gruner. All right, everybody, we're going to hit that free-for-all. We still have so much more to talk about, though, don't we? I just want to talk about Joseph Sisko all day.
Hello, another Nam.
Yeah. All right, everybody. We will. I was going to save that for the free for all, but
I'm sorry.
No, that we were talking about him this whole time, so it's okay. It's already been.
Sorry
done.
to ruin it.
We'll see you on the other side on the free for all. Stick around.
What's up, everybody? This is Seventh Rule Podcast. We're joined by our host Ryan T. Husk in the house. We've also got Malissa Longo. Anna Post.
Nice.
The wonderful Eve England in the house. Hi, my name is Anne-Marie. Anne-Marie.
Held our joy.
Held our joy, everyone.
Held our joy.
Held our joy. And we got Dr. Susan V. Gruner in the house, ladies and gentlemen.
Woo-hoo.
TJ Jackson-Bey, yay.
Yay, yay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
We've got the board queen, Tierney C. Dieckmann, throwing up the W's. Rex Wood, how's it going?
Sure.
Homer Frizzell, somewhere out in New York in Walter Koenig's old apartment building.
Jackson-Bey.
Yes. That's great.
And we got DJ Scott Dracula in the house on the ones and twos, ladies and
Yeah.
I just cast a spell on you right there. Do you see that?
Yeah. He's just scratching the records on it.
Stops.
All right. Boy, oh boy. So first things first, everybody. I think you caught all the NAMs today. We were kind of talking about them earlier. The NAMs were, of course, Christopher Pike out of the Medal of Valor and Joseph Sisko, because, you know, he said Grandpa.
Mm-hmm.
And speaking of Grandpa One's not joining us today, but he does say hello to everybody. So that's fun. But now, everybody, boy, here it is. It's the moment you've all been waiting for. Eve England out in Mexico wanted to be sure that we don't forget to say Jake Sisko guesses the IMDb score.
Oh, I did not guess this one. It's a sad episode. Good episode, though. I'm going to go with I'll go with a 8.5. That's my guess.
Does anybody else have any guesses that doesn't already know the answer?
I don't know, but I think that's low.
I feel like people might have rated it lower because they didn't like what happened in it. Because I think sometimes people go with their emotion more than the episode being.
I actually literally just checked to see how many people gave it a 1, because the people that gave it a 1 were specifically like, you killed Jadzia, 1. And the answer is not too many, actually, surprisingly.
Wow.
I will conservatively give it an 8.2.
Tierney's starting to show that she's checking ahead of time by getting it right on the money 2 weeks in a row.
No!
She's like,
that was 1,000% a guess. So was last week. No way.
Yeah.
Yep. 8.
Clean up on that top.
I'm not guessing next week. I'm not. No.
What?
Pretty good.
Yeah, I think that's pretty fair. Not too many people gave it 1s. Because I did worry about that too. Wondering if people just rage 1'd it like people do with new Star Trek series.
Rage.
What a great idea you just gave me.
You look at the new Star Trek series, and it's like half of them are 10s and half of them are 1s. Like nobody thinks it's a 7 or 8 or 5. They're just like, it's either the greatest thing ever or the worst thing ever, and that's all there is to it.
Yeah, extremes.
Yeah. Anyway, on a post.
Wait, time out. There was a NAM I think we didn't mention, and it was Keiko.
Oh, I missed that.
I said
Okay. I'm sorry. I withdraw my timeout.
No. We missed it in the discussion. When was she mentioned?
In the hallway when they're getting on the ship. O'Brien tells Dax to look in on Keiko and the kid. I think that was the only NAM.
Did he say Keiko and the kids?
So the kids get a NAM too.
Yep. Boy, NAMs for everybody.
I rarely pay attention to NAMs, and that was the first time I think I was like, oh, there's this NAM here.
Yeah, I caught that one.
I remembered.
I Christopher Pike too, but I didn't note it as a NAM in my head.
I didn't know.
Yeah, me either.
Same thing. Same here. I sit at the top as a trivioid, and I still didn't connect it until Melissa said it.
I have a question too. Do groups of people count as NAMs?
Yes.
Like the prophets?
Oh.
Although they show
because then
them,
they're like the Dominion, the Federation.
I
have a NAM in there that we haven't said yet.
Oh.
And that is Ducat's daughter.
Oh
yes, Zial,
right.
Oh, yeah. He calls her Zial. Yes.
I don't blame you for shooting her.
Oh,
even though you shot her.
But
blame me.
Bonjour. Wait, how does he say that?
He says Bejor.
Bejor.
Most of them say Bejor. He says Bejor, and Picard says Bejor.
Bejor. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Wow, good knowledge, guys. Good knowledge. On a post, have you seen this episode recently? And if so, do you remember how you reacted the very first time you saw it?
I was very sad the very first time I saw it. I did not think it was a fair death for Jadzia. I mean, if you have to kill a character that is so loved, don't do it in a cop out way. Like it wasn't like, I don't know. There were just much better ways for her to have died, especially for someone who had such a warrior's heart. Just like being surprised in a temple, I don't know. It wasn't fair.
Yeah. How do you feel about the episode as a whole?
I think it's a good episode. I like the turnarounds and Ducat. I just wanted him to die.
What?
It's awful, but I'm like, how is he like keep coming back? Like, why do people give him so many like? It's like I don't know, bad penny, I guess. Always tempted. But
what does Cassidy have to do with this?
Okay, very good.
Oh, there's
Thank you. Get
Caught that.
Very nice. Very nice.
Thank you.
Check her out, June 2nd. Isn't that when the Orville premieres?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, something like that.
Boy, that silence was very deafening.
Be more specific.
Yeah,
you gotta work
Stuff
for
like
these
she
a little bit. Well, Tierney C. Dieckmann,
Oh God.
how did you feel about this episode? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Did you cry with Worf?
I cried a lot. A lot. And for a lot of reasons over many years and for many reasons, and more lately for lots of other reasons. I'm already starting. I've got like 4 screens in front of me now. I think, and I apologize to her if she's in the live chat when this comes up, or her or him or any gender identity between or beyond. To she exec, I think is the chat name that comes up, but I'm not sure if the spelling is correct. But they had mentioned at a previous recording, they asked how many notes I had for something, and I was like, I don't know, like 6 pages. But I've got so many for this because I wasn't sure where to go with it, with thoughts, because I'd gotten to a point through watch throughs that the actual death scene for Jadzia, which is crap. That they could have done so much better. And if I won't go through it, but anybody could go and look through Memory Alpha. And I'm tempted to almost post pictures of the companion because there are some really interesting points in that of what they could have done for her death. And it just got so convoluted, and it just was never going to be enough because she shouldn't have died. She just shouldn't have. But that's what happens when she had to leave the show. And she didn't have to, but there's a lot of politics. But I didn't know where to go with it. But after watching so many times her death, I didn't cry anymore. And looking at it now and where things are in my life and with the 7th rule, I cry at it now because it's so much deeper to me than it used to be. So with all of my screens of notes here, I want to take things a little bit differently than I typically would. And I had gone back and watched my very first episode of 7th Rule, which was You Are Cordially Invited.
Nice.
Or Jadzia's wedding.
Yeah.
And I could not have asked for, and I didn't know beforehand that would be my first episode. I couldn't have asked for a better episode to start with. I have a top 3 for DS9, but I don't have a top 10, and that would be that I've organized. That would be in it. And I showed this to you guys off camera, but not on. I have lots of silly things, but I do have this that's signed by the 2 of them. Was a random eBay auction that I picked up. It was like, I have to have this. It's so silly. And they signed it, and I think I have more wedding pictures of Star Trek characters in the house than my own. But I went back and I watched that episode. I must have seen it several times with that interview, because he interviewed Terry Farrell, which is amazing. And she's incredible. And for anybody that's watching this, if you haven't gone back and seen that episode, go back and watch it. It's she's so good. And obviously everybody's human, but she is so human and relatable and honest, and explains the struggles. And there's something that's in my head a lot, and I don't know how. I don't think I've said this in any of these episodes yet, and I don't know how, because it's in my head all the time of why I think we love characters and relate to them is, well, because we either relate to them or we want to relate to them. And for someone like Jadzia's character, at least when I first really started rewatching these as I was growing up and getting older, I wanted to relate to her. She was outgoing and brilliant and courageous and beautiful, and she had the warrior's heart through the Klingon side, and all of these things I felt that I wasn't. And Terry says this, and Cirroc, you point out something in that interview that I had forgotten, a line that she says. I love the favorite lines that you pick out of in the wedding episode. I don't beg. And it's great because Terry points out that we've all felt that in real life, that you want to beg to be accepted. And we do. We want to beg. And she points it out too, as a woman, it's hard to be accepted. And Cirroc, you go into some incredible points of being accepted as a minority. And I don't have that experience. And just all of these things culminate into this, into Star Trek. And I think I'm a little dried up now, but I've never felt this before. And this is what this episode does for me now, is I could go into every page. There was a screen there of notes, of nitpicks, and there's plenty, but that's not what it is for me now. It's much more important, and I wish we had her for the last season. I really do. But I mean, my God, I adore Debor, or repronounce her last name. I really right, do.
Debor,
yeah. God, I related the Ezri's, 20 personalities all over the place. I do, but right. But it's become that much more important to me because of you guys, because of everything you, Cirroc, Ryan, Malissa, everything you guys put into this, and everybody in the chat, and the community, and everybody who was at the convention. You were amazing. She let me stay with her for 2 nights, so I didn't have to do all the driving, and well, I couldn't drive, so all the transportation back to the suburbs. And thank you. I've never felt connected to a community that isn't just not toxic, but poison control. Ever. In over 30 years of living, this is what this has done for me. And Terry, go back and watch. You were cordially invited of 7th Row. Go back and watch the episode and listen to Terry, and know that what she's gone through. I know there's a lot more to that story. There's a lot more, and I kind of wish that I knew, but I obviously will respect that privacy for her. But it's heartbreaking hearing her, but it's also really refreshing to know that she found her voice, I think, is something that she says in that interview too. And it's great. It's great. So thank you guys.
Yeah, thank you. We've been very fortunate with this community, right, Cirroc?
Absolutely. That's what it's about.
Yeah.
That's probably the best thing, though, is when people go into the live chat and they're just like, whoa, everybody here's like super nice. Am I in the Twilight Zone? What's going on? Why is everybody so nice? Is this a trick?
Aww.
What's going on? And everybody's saying hi to each other, and they're friendly, and they're funnier than we are, jerks. And
Nobody's funny.
we're just really fortunate for all of you here right now, and all the people in the live chat, and all the people that make the comments that they do. Everybody's so supportive, not just with us, but with each other. I mean, that's the most rewarding thing, is seeing everybody being supportive with each other. That's gold. That's platinum. Well, Dr. Anne-Marie Segal, how are you? Do you have anything to add about this episode, or about how incredible the live chat is? By the way, you've been so active in the live chat. We have you to thank for that live chat being so friendly and supportive. And we actually hold the Guinness Book of World Records for the most exclamation points in a live chat because of you.
Oh, that's so nice. Oh, happy to do my part. I really love this episode. I mean, first of all, it's still shocking on TV when someone dies, even in the era like post Game of Thrones. So to do this in the 90s was just like so amazing. And you know, like anyway, that she died would have been awful. So I mean, it's not the best, but I do love the setup of, oh my gosh, it's just heartbreaking because every time I watch it, I fall for like getting so excited about Wolf and Dex trying to have a baby and how happy they look, and it's just, oh my god, what a dagger. But yeah, I love everything. I mean, I love everything about all these episodes. But
I don't consider work.
Yeah, no, he does not.
Oh my god! Also, I love it at the beginning how like, dude, everybody needs to like quit spying on everyone's hollow sweet times. It's so creepy. Like,
She said, you've been in there for.
Yeah.
It's so gross.
Dude, Bashir, she's married, dude. Seriously.
Also, like Quark. I mean, Bashir maybe a little, he's delusional, but like Quark, dude, like there's no way you work in a bar and you're so like used to human and like
Quark's got a better shot than Bashir does. No way.
I mean, with me,
with all of the tango playing,
I'm just like, there's no way you think that's
spent together in the bar.
Yeah. So
and
crazy.
she, you know, and she dated Captain Baudet for a little while. So, you know,
that's true.
Not about looks.
She's like
she's pretty far gone. In
bumpy heads, transparent heads. I don't care.
Big lobes. Who cares?
Yeah, but I mean, like, Bashir, I expect it because he's so like not in tune with the world, and he like thinks every single signal is a possibility. I'm like, Quark, man, you're still like hung up on her. Yeah, I love it all. So good.
Well, Dr.
Oh, and also I wanted to say too, like if like Sisko starts getting these, I mean, what are they called? Like visits by the prophets. Like, first of all, I don't get like, does he blank out for the same amount of real time? Well, I know that they're not linear, but like, is it just like instantly? So do people know or not? Like, if he's
that's a good question. I think
there.
it is in an instant because usually when he comes out of it, they all seem to go like, what's wrong? He doesn't wake up in a hospital bed because 5 minutes have gone by.
Because he fell down the stairs.
I wonder if he has like a glazed look for long enough for people to notice, like for a few seconds, or if they can't tell, but he just like then snaps back and isn't paying attention. I don't know. But if I was anybody working with him, I'd be like, I don't want this dude as my captain. Like, what if we're in battle and he just like gets disoriented, and that can happen any second. And you know, whenever he gets a prophet visit, it's never the only one for the episode. So like, I probably would have asked Dax to just be the captain. Yeah, but I'd probably just ask Dax to be the captain and keep him home.
He should have like a code word. Like as soon as he starts to feel, you know, he says pineapple or something.
I never know.
And then they know to take over.
And then they know to take over. Often enough for him to be axed out of the cactus.
I'm like, yeah, no, but just if it happens once, it's kind of like if you have if you like pass out, you need to have like, I don't know, they're not going to send you to do something really important like the next day. Maybe send them on an away mission or whatever.
I thought Kira reacted quickly though in that moment. Like,
they all
she's
did.
like, she sent them away.
Oh,
she's like,
great.
Nog, plot a course for the,
Mr. Nog.
Mr. Nog.
Yeah. Especially if the prophets are saying to stay home.
Mr. Nog to you.
Yes, Mr. Nog.
Well, Dr. Susan B. Gruner hanging out in Fiji today. How are you? And how much do you love this episode? And how many times did you give it a 10 on IMDb?
Just one, but everything about it is great. I'm not going to break it up because everybody's covered everything. But I think we left out the holodeck, the song. And and that was a great song.
That was so good.
Yeah.
Losers. Yep.
Losers. Here's to the losers.
Here's to all the losers.
It's hard to watch this episode now, knowing what I know about the real life situation, and it's really kind of hard to separate that out. So I think that there was some kind of, I think that it was deliberate that they killed her in such a crappy way. Crappy is a brilliant and perfect word for that. It was just so bad. They could have done. She needed to die with glory. Yeah, and that was not. But it was still a great episode, and she's one of my favorite characters, and I really, when I watched it for the first time, which was in the 90s, I didn't really think she was dead. I thought, no, they're not going to kill off a main character. No way.
Right. Yeah.
So, it was unheard of then. It just didn't happen.
Yeah. Yeah. So you watched it when it first aired, Sue, and were you shocked?
Yeah. What year was it? 98?
98, June 17th.
Yeah. So I was born in 56. So that tells you how old I was. And I think I mentioned that on Facebook, but I was I was 40 something. Oh my God. But yeah, I remember it very well. I watched it religiously. I usually don't do that with TV. I don't plan my life around television back then, even though I had a VCR and all that stuff. No, I wanted to see it when it was broadcast, whatever night it was, I forget. But she got ripped off. She got ripped off.
The scary part is that while Sue's telling us her birthday, really she looks younger than just about all of us. She's a vampire.
Good bug juice.
Eve England, good bug juice. Caterpillars are the best for keeping your skin glowing. Eve England out in Mexico. How are you today? And how much do you love this episode?
Yeah, I just watched it just now, and I'd forgotten how jam-packed it was and how many different things were going on. And I kept thinking, how are they going? I said, I'm sure this is the one where Jadzia dies, but there seems so much else going on. I was then sort of thinking I'd got it wrong, and I thought, no, it must be this one. Let's just keep on. I mean, it's weird. I mean, I hate the fact that she dies, and I agree that in the context of Star Trek, it is a crappy death.
Yes.
However, when you know what comes next, then I really like Ezri. And also, I think I've now become a bit conditioned to these pointless deaths from things like Game of Thrones. So I think, in reality, if this was being made now, in some respects, you think, okay, well, sometimes it almost makes it more tragic that she does have this
exactly
pointless, and I fully appreciate, and I appreciate that more this time, watching it in that context. I think having been used to get some of the people who died again, why was this character even in it, and they've just been killed off in that pointless way and they haven't even resolved their story. So I think I found it much more emotional then, but then I was just really glad that she did have the opportunity to say goodbye to Wolf and Julian and everyone at the end. So I found that actually more emotional in that respect, even though but for a slightly different reason and emphasis. And then what I particularly liked about this episode, apart from the really great song with Vic and the Losers, but what I really loved was the because the continuity of that was really good. I just love the fact that we've had this sort of Quark and Bashir wallowing in self-pity for so many episodes. And I love that continuity that we have in DS9. There's something almost relatively small and, innocuous really in the grand scheme of the story. But what I really loved about this was the Sisko scene with Dax at the end with the coffin. And the way it was shot, when you just had the camera just spinning around and tracking him around the coffin, and you just sort of felt you really in his head at that moment. And then right at the end, when he's scrubbing the clams or whatever, he's at the end, and you sort of look, you look from the top, and I was like, that's when you sort of feel he's got the whole weight of the galaxy, the quadrant, whatever, on his shoulders at that moment, looking down, and he just doesn't know what to do, and he has to be in that sort of mindful moment of brushing those clams because he just does not know what to do. And I found that to me, that was the most powerful part of actually this episode, not actually Dax, weirdly, which I wasn't expecting because I'd forgotten what happens with Sisko. And when we hear that he's taking the baseball, and it's just so hopeless, the whole thing. And I just felt at the end, I was like, oh my God, this is just awful. And I was like, how can we finish this episode now without a resolution to what's happened? And that's what got me actually, in terms of where I thought, God, I could actually cry now. That was really sort of quite emotional for me. So that was my favorite part of the episode.
Good stuff. Definitely very Game of Thrones. I made a note of that, where like Game of Thrones loves right the episode where they're going to kill somebody. Right before that is they give that person a win, like something joyful, something good. And you're like, wow. And then you're like, wait a second. If this person finally stopped their struggle and something good's about to happen, that means they're about to die. And then, Star Trek, the original Game of Thrones. Out in
TV has
Missouri.
made an area of success.
How much do you love this episode?
TJ. Right.
Oh, me.
Sorry. Hi, my name is not Anne Marie, is what it says on your face.
Okay. I enjoyed this episode. I picked up quite a lot of things from it, more than I normally do on a rewatch. One of the things I picked up is during the battle, it was Garrick was the one that kind of made the discovery of, what was going on with these weapons platforms. And, it got me thinking maybe Cardassians are actually really good at science. Because I remember in an episode before, they had these 3 Cardassian scientists that were coming to do something with the wormhole. But then they had that, prophecy thing with the 3 Vipers. And even on Voyager, Seska was a science officer, or masquerading as one anyway, but she could pull it off because obviously she knew enough science to be able to fool the crew long enough before we found out she's a Cardassian. So maybe Cardassians are really good at science. I made a note about Vic's song too. The Captain Pike Award. So I didn't note that as a NAM, but what I did note is how much more meaningful, that was, hearing about that award now that we've actually seen some more of Captain Pike on Discovery and pretty soon on his own show. So that hearing Captain Sisko receive that reward actually meant a lot more for me when I watched it this time. Like, okay, I know who I knew who Captain Pike was, but like now I know Captain Pike and I like Captain Pike. And so I'm glad that he got that award. One of the things I was pretty disappointed with was Admiral Ross kind of making Captain Sisko make this choice between being a Starfleet captain and the emissary. And I think the defense has been made before, like, okay, you may not see them as prophets, or you may not be fully getting down with this, but don't forget that they're the ones that are stopping the Dominion from coming through the wormhole. So you might want to give them a little space. And if they say don't go, we maybe ought to at least try to see what they're talking about. But they don't have that conversation. He just, hey, look, tell me now, are you with it or are you not? And so I was kind of disappointed that he took that position, and that was the outcome. But Such is life.
Especially since they made a whole fleet of Jem'Hadar disappear entirely. Ships and all
Why did the
disappeared.
Federation not take the prophet seriously by now? I have those notes in big caps. Why can't he both be the emissary and a star captain? You don't have to think they're gods. You don't have to worship them, but they've proven themselves time and time again. They know what the hell they're talking about.
There are at least some beings that have done this thing. Like, okay, give them some credit for that.
There were 100 or 200 ships that were going on that mission, the Klingon, the Romulan, and the Federation. So, one guy missing wouldn't have made the difference to me. Like, Sisko could have sat that one out. There was enough.
I think so. As a matter of fact, the end result proves that they were able to get the job done without him.
This goes beyond listening to that little voice in your head saying, "Yeah, maybe you shouldn't." This is the
This is
they have proven themselves.
Yeah, but the prophets weren't exactly clear about what would happen. They spoke in this very vague kind of riddle thing. It was like he kept asking what's going to happen to Bayshore, and
but the writers had to kind of leave it vague at that point too.
They did. I think in a not a TV show, then he probably would have just gotten a runabout and flew into the wormhole and be like, "Look, guys, what's up?" like this is a pretty crucial moment in history. Like, you need to be clear and not this riddle stuff.
Good points.
Maybe that's the only way they know how to communicate.
I thought that too. That's exactly one of the thoughts I had. Is like they always are like in these riddles, but maybe that's just because we just watched Discovery with this completely different species that they had a hard time communicating with. And so maybe it's that kind of situation where they're not exactly fully sure how to communicate, and they're just doing their best.
Like Darmok and Jalad.
At Tanagra?
Hey. No, a different one.
Speaking of Tanagra,
this one.
Their walls fell in this episode.
Yes.
Well, mistake. Everybody knows the expert of Tanagra is Rex A. Wood. So we're dying to hear from you now, Rex.
Really? Expert on that? Wow.
The expert?
You were name checked.
Okay, all right. I wouldn't really go there, but that's okay.
Tanagra against bullying. That would be really cool.
There you go. So, good episode across the board. Lots of good stuff in it. Whenever we get some Vic, we get some singing, we get stuff going on there. Always love the line at the end when they're leaving about, you guys are depressing the band, so please leave. That was one of my favorite lines there. And of course, all of us people that have had dreams of being with a certain person in our lives and wishing things had gone that way really identify well with Quark and with Bashir sitting there because of that and going, how many times in my life did I want something to happen like that and I was the loser? Those kind of things. So you can kind of sometimes identify definitely with that, especially if you've had those romances that didn't work out so well. I think the battle that Sisko had to have between being the emissary and being a Starfleet officer was really rough. And I agree with TJ that he probably shouldn't have had that put in front of him. But as a Starfleet officer, he knew that he had to be there. He was the one that had the plan. He was the one that they came up to and said, "Hey, we need you." So he was very pulled back and forth. And being a Starfleet officer, I think in his mind, he said, that has to come first. I have to do that. They are relying on me, even though, everything else was pulling him away from it. I think he still had that. He has the loyalty to Starfleet that he had to go at that point, even though it would have been easier to say I'm not going and face whatever circumstances he would have from the Admiral at that point. And you could see the conflict definitely in his face when he actually made the statement, I'll be there. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Because you could see he was not happy with that. So that was good. As we move along in the episode, we get to see some battle. That's always a little excitement. We
saw the Enterprise D.
Right. Absolutely. You get to see some really cool stuff going on there. The Kardashians, being good at science, but putting all your power into one moon.
Yeah, that was
very Star Wars of them.
May have not. Yeah,
even said that small
right?
moon. And then right before that, Sisko felt a disturbance in the Force. That whole scene was like
absolutely right out of that. So that's not a space state. That's not a moon. That's a very small moon that's got all the power. So you think about that part of it too. Is were they really smart putting all their eggs in one basket that can be destroyed at that point? So, maybe they are good at science, but not good at logistically
strategy
strategy at that point.
I mean, come on, Rick. That's how military funding works. You know how that thing got built by
absolutely.
But Wei Yun has actually been pointing that out, and he pointed it out in this episode. Like, you guys keep having us about to lose this war.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Why we keep dealing with you Cardassians.
And then, of course, the sadness at the end. You're right. It was a very, very. I don't know if anybody's came up with the list of the worst deaths or the poorest written deaths in Star Trek.
Gosh, there's one that beat that. I think.
No spoilers.
Was definitely one of them. Hers was definitely one of them. Okay, and I think because of the real life part, they were like, "How do we write her out? We'll just do this." Boom.
We got one scene.
They wrote her out. Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Really easy, because you would have expected her to pick something up and go after the cult. You would have really expected something to go on there. And it was just like, oh, here, boom, and that's it. Lift her up in the air a little bit, drop her down, and she's done. And then he comes over and says, I didn't really mean to hurt you. Yes, you did. Come on. All right.
You just don't understand. You just don't understand. He didn't mean it. He was just possessed.
Not at all.
But this man knows what he's talking about because he's got his Admiral Pips there, so he knows.
Absolutely. But the main reason why I wore this is because of the award ceremony at the beginning. That's why I wore it. But altogether, great episode, sad episode, but I give it a 10. I'm sorry, I give it a 10.
Nice.
Excellent. Yeah. Homer Frizzell, I was going to say Freezy, but he says we overused that. Would you give this episode a 10?
So I wanted Jadzia to stick around, but as far as no, I would not give it a 10. And it comes to my nitpick because other things have been covered, so I'm just going to jump right to it.
Nice.
We have Jake Sisko insisting he go to the most dangerous place and is there for the battle on the Defiant. And then at the end, and he wants to cover. He wants to be where the action is. And in the end, he's in New Orleans in a kitchen. Where is the action there? I don't understand why he went there. I know he's got to be with his, but I think he's made this choice the last couple times that he's a reporter. He's got to go where things are. Where the
he's not even a real reporter.
So it just those two didn't work. They didn't play together for me. And so because of that, I cannot give it a 10.
9.8.
That's a clincher.
But I think his loyalty to his father kind of outweighs his.
I think he was probably
his loyalty
to
journalism.
Then I want to see that. I want to see that on screen.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted a little bit more. And the other thing, if I am to be nitpicking a little bit, to explain why I don't even give it a 9.8. I thought that, okay, Ducat goes away for a while, and then all of a sudden he's able to conjure Pa Race using some yard sale piece of furniture that he found.
It was an artifact.
Rummaging around. I found it.
Store Wiseman.
And then I've got this voodoo effigy snap, and no.
Yep. We've seen that before. We saw the prophets hidden in a stone. When the stone broke, they came out. So
by the emissary.
Yeah.
He's the
but maybe
He's
the
the power
emissary
race
of the power
emissary.
race.
Could be.
Still, that was a solid nitpick, Homer. That's the first one. The first one was a solid nitpick.
You don't like my second one? I could
feel
go on.
I feel like your second one's getting people riled up a little.
I've got a couple pads here with notes on it.
We got to move over to the person who did it himself. The person himself, Galdu Scott. What say you?
I didn't do any of that. I don't know what you're talking about. just like Ducat didn't do it either. He's got a reason. He's got great reasons. That's what mania does to you when you're possessed by space demons. I have I noticed again. I don't remember watching this too clearly the first time. I was being 18 and ridiculous, doing whatever I was doing. But I caught this time around how suddenly, since episode 1, Jadzia has been calling these wormhole aliens. It's the science side, 100%. And in this episode, it's the prophets and thanks for praying for me. And then we have Ben, who's finally started to become more spiritual and lean into that. And they both make choices to go in the opposite direction. And it lands them both in terrible places. It lands Jadzia praying in a temple where she only walked by, it looked like, to get space capped or whatever you want to call it. And then, Ben mourning her death and however many other people probably died in that battle as well. And I thought that it was really cool, and it was very there's a lot of ideas about when you hit some kind of trauma like that, like one of his best friends dying, and that is to go back to your roots. And I am 100% for the idea of Ben saying, let's go back home. Let's go back to New Orleans, where I grew up, where my father is, where our family is, where we've got roots, because you've got to get back. You got to pull into that, and you got to find your core again. And we see, no spoilers for the next episode, but might be where he should have been. But my last part was I had a question for Cirroc. I loved the scene in the beginning where Kira and Ben are walking and talking about the festival, and he is just like living life to play with those kids. He is having so much fun doing that. And I wanted to know if that was kind of like, it's a little bit of Avery peeking through too, because we've heard, how cool he was with you. So I was wondering if that was just a little bit of him there with that laughter and messing with him and stuff like that.
Yeah, you picked up on something that I noticed myself. Just when he interacts with children, he becomes very free, and he's almost enters into their world of childness. So he's very good at that, and that's Avery the person, Avery the father that you get to see in that very glimpse with those kids. That's how he is around kids. He's like a really good parent or just person who's around children. He's playful.
Child whisperer.
Yeah.
It's empathy for sure. It's massive empathy.
Yeah. I like the way they have him as an alpha male, and yet he's touchy-feely, and I mean that in a good way. Yeah. Like the way he caressed Jadzia's cheek after she died. I thought that was a very powerful,
absolutely.
Such a simple
I have
thing,
thought for just a second that Worf would be like, dude, I'm praying over her. And like it did some weird Klingon custom where you're like, you're not supposed to touch the dead while we pray over there or something.
Go make the tea.
Yeah, go make red leaf tea.
Well, once you let out that howl, the spirit's gone.
Yeah, they're gone.
Yeah,
going to stove, of course.
Yeah, they don't care about the body after that.
We do have to run, everybody, but this is an episode we could talk about way longer. So keep up the conversation in the comments below, everybody. That's what we're trying to say. Thank you to Malissa and Anne-Marie, Anna. I almost said Anne, but everybody at home, it's Anna, not Anna.
Anna.
Tierney, Eve, Sue. Hi, my name is not Anne-Marie, aka TJ Jackson-Bey, Rex, Scott, and Homer. We will see you all next time. And until then, always remember the 7th rule.